The Democrats have done exactly what they said they would save our country from. They have turned our republic into a banana republic. They knew the polls didn't look good for Joe Biden. They knew that his history was abysmal and that Trump was likely going to win the November election. So what did they decide to do? They decided to convict their opposition and tried to jail him. Fortunately, there are a couple more moderate people who have common sense, and RFK Jr. is one of them, and he slammed Biden and the Democrats for doing this. Take a look.
What do you think happened down there in Lower Manhattan today?
I think, Jesse, that it is going to backfire. This conviction is going to backfire on the Democrats. I think every time that President Trump has been indicted, that his approval ratings actually increase, his popularity increases. I think there's a large number of Americans who are going to see this as the politicization of and the weaponization of the enforcement agencies. And I think it's going to hurt. It's bad for our democracy. I think the Democrats feel like they have the DNC feels like it has a candidate that cannot win fair and square in the polls. And so they have to win in the courts. They have to win by clearing the deck and getting their other opponents out of the race. I'm not a fan of President Trump's, but I want to win. I want to beat him in a campaign on a level playing field.
This is why I like RFK Jr. I don't agree with him on so many issues. I don't agree with him on a lot of what he talks about with racial politics. I definitely don't agree with him on abortion. I don't agree with him on gay marriage, which are really fundamental issues, and for that reason, I would never vote for him. But as a person, I really appreciate what he's saying. He doesn't just want to win because Donald Trump is in jail. He wants to win fair and square, which fair and square means he was voted by the Electoral College to be our president. He doesn't want to win because his opposition is sitting in jail. And I don't think that he will, but he is saying the quiet part out loud. The Democrats see the polls. They know Joe Biden is a horrible president and a horrible candidate, but because he's the incumbent president, they can't run someone else. People keep saying for a long time that Biden was going to get replaced by someone else. I've never believed that. If you look at the history of politics, the incumbent, despite, even if they have a really bad presidency like Joe Biden has, despite being awful, the incumbent is always the most powerful because when you switch him out, you as a party look incredibly weak. And so Democrats know this, but they have to run him because it's the best chance. Biden is probably going to lose. They probably knew that. And instead of, trying to raise more money, they thought, this a lot better strategy is just to weaponize the justice system against Trump and convict him, which they did. And they're going to try to put him behind bars. We'll see if it works when his sentencing comes up. But as to what Kennedy's saying about this backfiring on the Dems, I'm not so sure about that. And I know a lot of Republicans are coming out and a lot of conservative political commentators are coming out and saying that this is going to blow back on the Democrats. I'm not so sure. And the reason why is there is some polling out there that shows that people are less likely to vote for Trump if he's convicted. Now, I know it's just polls, but and I understand that was in theory as well. And in practice, people might see this and be outraged. But I also think that Republicans and conservatives cannot get complacent. And I think the power of propaganda, especially what's going on in the media right now and their connection to the Democrat Party, they're basically one and the same. I don't think that can be overstated. Just because people who are kind of in the conservative sphere see this as a total farce does not mean that there won't be a lot of independents that are unfortunately brainwashed by this propaganda and won't vote for Trump. So again, I caution that because if people are really passionate about this, you have to go out and you have to talk to people about it and you have to explain to them why this trial was so unprecedented and how this was so politically motivated, because chances are MSNBC, CNN, even Fox News at times might be pushing a narrative that really shows the opposite. RFK Jr. continued, though, by kind of taking this conviction to its logical conclusion, and that was a really fantastic clip as well, so we'll play that now.
What I would say to people is, in the Democratic Party is, even if you won this way, what is it going to do to our country? If half the people in this country have the anger and the rage and feel like that they're the person, they're their champion, that the candidate that they wanted to vote for has been taken off the table. When I was growing up, the Democratic Party was the party of getting everybody to vote, of making sure nobody got disenfranchised. The modern Democratic Party is just trying to get rid of as many possibilities for voters as possible, and it's not a good thing for our country.
So this is the problem. You think that there was a lot of rioting and protests and January 6th and all that in 2020? Wait for 2024 when half of the country wanted a man to be president, or at least preferred a man to be president over the other, and he literally could not run because he was stuck in jail. I mean, forget what's happened so far. He hasn't been able to campaign because he's been stuck in court, but if he's in jail, he can't campaign at all. Also, the internet is flooded with 2016 stolen election memes and posts saying that Donald Trump basically stole the election from Hillary Clinton, which, wow, that is the most ironic and hypocritical statement I've ever heard. For the last 8 years, maybe the last 4 years especially, but even the last 8 years, all we've been hearing from Democrats is that Republicans are the party of election denial. And now what we're hearing, and it was always BS because they are already saying that the election was stolen because of Russian interference, which there was absolutely no evidence for, and they spent millions of dollars investigating it, and they found nothing. But it's still being propagated, and they're basically saying that this conviction proves that that the election was stolen by Donald Trump. And it's like, who is the election denier now? Like, that is actually, first off, it's crazy because of the fact that they've been calling Republicans election deniers. But second, they are actively trying to rig the election against Donald Trump while telling people that he stole the election in 2016. So the irony is insane because that's exactly what Democrats are trying to do. The Democrats still opened this can of worms. This is one of the biggest problems, and this is what RFK Jr. was kind of speaking to. Don't be surprised if Biden and other Democrat presidents get convicted in the future. And Democrats do this every time. It never starts. Republicans almost always, if you look throughout history, they observe the precedent for it, and they tend to stick to it. They don't really go into uncharted territories. But then the Democrats open a can of worms. They do something that's never been done before. They weaponize the justice system or the DOJ or anything against their political opponents, and now the Republicans will do it. And I don't want the Republicans to do it. I don't want Democrats to do it. This is what RFK Jr. is saying. It's not healthy for our country to have the justice system go against your preferred politician or your not preferred politician. It doesn't spell confidence in our justice system. It's incredibly contentious, which is ironic considering Democrats have been preaching unification for 4 years, and they've made it much worse than it was ever been. But don't be surprised if you see this with Democrats. It's going to happen. And Republicans kind of should, because that's just how politics works. You can't just get hammered and not do it back. But for me, I don't want anybody to do this. I don't care if Biden does illegal things. I mean, this was before Trump got convicted. Now I want him to get convicted too. But I don't want our presidents being convicted of anything short of being treasonous. If you're treasonous, then absolutely you should be impeached, removed, in jail. But if you're not treasonous, I don't think it's smart to attack your political opponents, whether they did it or not. And let's be clear. In terms of Trump's case, I'm not even saying that because Trump's case was clearly a sham from the beginning, and the things that he said he did are not fully true, including, and by the way, the case, in case you're wondering, the case was not if he paid Stormy Daniels hush money. He did that, and it's legal. The case was on if he falsified business records, which he did not do. And even if he did do it, the statute of limitations was well past, and that's just one of a plethora of problems. But if Biden did the exact same thing, I wouldn't want it prosecuted because it's not healthy. This is not good for the nation, and it is not unifying, which is exactly what the Democrats want in order to win the election. Will it backfire? I'm not sure. We'll have to watch and find out. I'm sure there's going to be some polling going out soon, and I think we should overall trust polls because they're right most of the time. So I'll probably be making a video on how this conviction has affected the polling, so stay tuned for that in the future. As always, guys, if you enjoyed this video, go down below, subscribe and like to support the channel, as well as comment your thoughts on this conviction, whether or not it's going to boost Biden or Trump's numbers or even RFK Jr.'s numbers as well. And we'll see you next time.